Thank you for very much for joining us today here at the Pierre Hotel in New York City. And also I'd like to thank all the millions that are watching us on live stream, particularly in mainland China. This presentation is principally for the people of China and the people of the United States, but we hope we want to welcome the audience in China. Over the last year, there's been a tremendous amount of media reporting and consternation over two events, one that happened in London earlier in the spring, and then one that happened in Turkey several weeks ago. The one in the spring was the poisoning of Russian dissidents or Russian citizens in London, and the one the last couple of weeks was looks like the killing of a Washington Post columnist, Khashoggi, in Turkey. And both these situations, as tragic as they were, created an international media firestorm. Well, what we're here today, and Miles Guo is going to walk you through, is something that's quite frankly stunning. Literally hundreds, if not thousands, of the best and the brightest of the Chinese people are either missing, have been imprisoned, have committed suicide, have died under mysterious circumstances, or have had their assets taken from them and are impoverished. And the world's media today has not connected the dots, or there's literally been no outrage. Now, this is not one or two isolated cases, and these are not people who are not insignificant in media, in their corporate life, in the financial life, in government, in the military. It's across the board, and it's men and it's women. It is absolutely stunning that this could go on in a culture, a global culture that's connected by media, and there's literally crickets. Well, that ends today. And it ends because one man's prepared to stand up and say he's not prepared to tolerate this, and he will use every asset at his disposal to bring truth to this, to make sure the Chinese people do not come under any more assault as they're already coming from the Chinese Communist Party and the senior leadership of the CCP. Today is about recklessness and accountability. As many people in the world, and particularly in the world's financial centers, are starting to understand, the Chinese Communist Party and the senior leadership of the CCP have acted financially recklessly over the last 10, 15, or 20 years. And that printing of currency and increasing of debt and everything that that's causing and will cause in the future, I believe, in a coming financial crisis, can be seen in the example that Miles Guo is going to walk through today. We have one of the, if not the largest financial company in the world, that has essentially been created from a very small company, and from 2014 to 2018 became, I think, arguably the largest financial company in the world, with the aid and support of major Western financial institutions and major financial players in the West. And the question has to be, how reckless was this? Who benefited from this? Who owns this? Who took these assets from the Chinese people? Who profited off this? Who looked the other way? In addition, we've had the untimely demise of the leader of this company, H&A. And as you're going to see today from presentation of an investigation carried on by Guo Media and other investigators that are here, and that will be turned over to authorities, there's many, many, many questions about what actually went on. Now, one of the most powerful things of this is the rule of law. The mistake that H&A made, and the mistake that the financial institutions and those individuals that profited off the reckless growth of H&A made is that they called Miles Guo a liar. And then they went to court to sue him for defamation. They will find out that that was a critical and for them a fatal mistake. Because in the United States, we have the rule of law. And as Miles Guo is going to walk you through today, he's prepared to take action in a number of areas, including a very aggressive counterclaim suit and a very aggressive fight on this defamation. Because as you will see today, everything that Miles Guo has said about H&A and everything he has said about the Chinese Communist Party and everything he said about Chinese Communist Party leaders in relation to the aiding and abetting of the reckless growth of H&A is true. And we know that, as you'll see today, by fundamental disclosures by these financial institutions as the rats left the ship as H&A begins to implode. More importantly, Miles Guo is going to talk about, at the end of his presentation, something for the Chinese people and for the victims. He is setting up and going to establish a $100 million fund called the Rule of Law Fund. And its principal focus is to assist the families, the victims, the friends of the missing, the imprisoned, those who died under mysterious circumstances regarding suicide or just happened to fall off 40-story buildings, and also those that had their assets stripped and impoverished their families. Miles Guo will announce today that he is prepared, as he's starting this fund, he's going to fund it, and it's going to not only look to get information and help those victims in mainland China, but hold accountable those institutions in the West, specifically in New York City, in the City of London, and other financial capitals that have aided and abetted this reckless behavior. Now we're going to have a presentation by Miles Guo. Then we have some other parts of the investigators that will be here to say a few words. And then we're going to open up for all your questions. We'll be prepared to deal with the media and answer additional questions even after the Q&A. Please remember, this is the beginning of a process. And this is going to take many years, as it's taken decades to get into this situation. But you will see today through the example of one company that came from nowhere to become one of the largest financial companies in the world, and then had its leader mysteriously die 2 months ago, and nobody talk about it. I think I can say for Miles Guo, that day is ending and a new day starts today. I want to introduce now Miles Guo.
Thank you.